Hi, this is Rosa. It's good to see you again. So last time we talked, my husband and I had just gotten done with a hike in Sedona to Devil's Bridge. And that was such a great experience for me. Just really exciting and enjoyable. And I came away with what I would call a hiker's high. I don't know if you can have that, but that's what I felt. And so over the next couple days, I just couldn't wait to figure out what my next plan was for hiking. I didn't know that that's what I was going to do. I didn't know that I was going to be ready right away to do another hike. But I just started absorbing what my opportunities were and just started to imagine what all the places I could go and what my capabilities are becoming. And I started following a couple of Instagram hiking accounts. I started making notes and lists of places that I wanted to go. I was just so ready to just jump in it and go again. So a couple days passed, and it occurred to me that over the weekend, the upcoming weekend, I was going to be going to Tucson. And I was going for a doctor's appointment, and that's really the only plans I had. But I also didn't have plans the next day. And so it just occurred to me that I could go hike Sabino Canyon with my son. And a little bit about Sabino Canyon. To me, it's just an absolute jewel of the Tucson area that I didn't even know about. My family and I lived in Tucson in the Tucson area about 3 years. We moved away about a year and a half ago. And before we moved, we had a little bit of a clue about 6 to 9 months before we moved that we might be moving. And so we just started looking to fill out a Tucson bucket list. And we asked our friends and family about places that we should go to in Tucson. And Sabino Canyon was on that list. And I had heard about Sabino Canyon and I'd heard of it was wonderful, but I had no idea it was as beautiful and as magical as I think it is now. So the first time my family and I went, we didn't really know what to expect. So a little bit about Sabino Canyon, so you know what to expect if you do decide to go. It kind of reminds me of a little mini Zion's National Park in that you take, there's one road in and one road out. There are little offshoot hikes. I'm not getting to those because I don't know a lot about those yet, but there is one main road. You don't drive it. It's no personal vehicles, but there is a shuttle service that you can purchase tickets for. And you can take that shuttle service to any one of 9 stops along the way. And that it's about a 3.7 miles to the end of the road. You can take the shuttle all the way there or stop at any of the 9 stops along the way. Or you can take the shuttle the whole way and just ride it both ways. Or you can get on and off at various places. And so the first time we went, we didn't even really realize that there was a shuttle service. And so we just hiked a little bit, and we ended up hiking to what we thought our capability was, which was about 1.5 miles, maybe 2 miles that my family and I made it. And we had just gone down a big hill. It was a little bit warm of a day. We played in the water. There is a creek in Sabino Canyon. And every time I've been, there's been water. Sometimes there's a lot of water. Sometimes there's very little water. It's usually very cold water. That's been my experience anyway. So we just hiked a little bit in and then ended up hiking out because we hadn't purchased shuttle tickets. So the next time we recognized that we could purchase shuttle tickets. We also found out you could buy them ahead of time, and that's what we did. So you had to show up at a certain time. And we ended up taking the shuttle all the way to the end, and then we hiked back to what we thought we could. That's what we did the next time as well. But neither of those times, we didn't hike all the way back. We just hiked probably 2 to 3 miles. We had our families with us. We went with friends or other family members. We played in the water. We didn't necessarily have the endurance or capability of all of us going the whole hike. And so I myself had never been on the entire hike all the way from one end to the other on Sabino Canyon. I'd ridden in a shuttle, but I'd never been the entire distance on foot. And so when I recognized that we could go to Sabino Canyon, last weekend. That was actually that was my goal, is to be able to hike it the whole distance. Um, One way, not both ways. So it's 3.7 miles one direction. Um, and I had my son with me. I didn't have my husband with me. Um, and so that was something I'd never done before, something I was really excited to do. Um, and so we went and did it. As it turned out, we got a little bit later start in the day than I'd really wanted to get. We didn't get there till about 12:30 in the afternoon. It was cold, or it was a cold day, thank goodness. I think the high was around 70. Um, I was not physically prepared to hike the entire distance in and the entire distance out. I didn't think. So when I got there and found out the shuttle was sold out for the upcoming shuttle, I was pretty disappointed and a little bit frustrated. I hadn't pre-purchased shuttle tickets because I didn't know what time I was going to get there. But it turned out that we had about an hour and a half wait. And my son had his Nintendo Switch, I had my phone, and so we sat in the cool of the visitor center for an hour and just use our electronics until our shuttle was ready for us. Then we took the shuttle up. The hike back, which is the one we did, is mostly downhill. Some of it is very steep downhill. Probably the first 3/4 of the mile is pretty steep downhill. We hiked between the two last stops. The very last stop is all the way at the end of a steep hill. And at the next last stop, there's quite a bit of water access. And my son is 10 and he lives for water. And so we stopped there and played for a while. I brought extra clothes for him because I didn't know it was going to be, I didn't know what the temperature was going to be. I thought he'd freeze. And he didn't end up changing, but he did get entirely wet and then wore the wet clothes back. And so he and I hiked the rest of that hike. It was pretty easy going downhill. I will admit that. And most of the hike is downhill. We got to the end and there's a section, probably about 3/4 to 1 mile, that's uphill. And part of it is very steep. And we got to that just as it was starting to get dark. And that tested my endurance. But we did it. And my son was such a cheerleader and he was such a trooper and he was so good. And we just hiked and hiked and hiked. By the time I got to the last mile, I was really, really tired and I was really feeling it. And it was dark at that point too, or it was pretty close to dark. But we got back to the car and I was just so excited to finally made that goal, to hike all of Sabino Canyon, one direction, and just to enjoy that beautiful place again. I hope to do that a lot. Now that we lived in Tucson, it has a real special place in our heart. And Sabino Canyon is one of my absolute favorite places to go in the Tucson area. So I just want to let you guys know about that. If that wasn't something you'd ever done, it's a great thing to do with your family. It's a great thing to do with your family of all abilities, because that shuttle service is such an asset. The shuttle does cost money. I want to say it's $13 for adults and $10 for kids. It also costs money to get into the park, but your park pass works if you have one of those. But the beauty of what God created and gave us is just all around us. And I just really love that experience. I want to share that with you guys. And still working on my next plans for my next hike. I don't know what that's going to be. But I've been bitten by the bug, so we're going to go. All right, love you guys. Okay, this is the very top of Sabino Canyon. Stop number 9's up there. And there's a big downhill section between this stop and the next stop. Look at the creek from here. Look how beautiful it is. There's some really beautiful spots on this hike for a creek.